in regard to how you reference who's living in your home, that's kind of like, oh, you can't say residents, you can't say tenants. Um, we've kind of been referring to them as guests, and instead of a lease agreement, we have a licensee agreement.
Okay.
When the when the police came, they insisted that this was still a civil matter, even though it was a licensee agreement.
Hmm.
The only reason that we were able to have a person removed from the house is
Hmm.
because they charged the police when we got the door open.
They charged.
Yeah,
Oh.
we were able to, oh, here's another lesson. Wi-Fi locks
Hmm.
are always the greatest. We have several doors on the house and they all have Wi-Fi locks, but they also have deadbolts except for one door. The one door that didn't have a deadbolt, the Wi-Fi lock wasn't working with us. So
Yeah.
we're finally able to get that worked out. And when we got through the door, the house manager, he charged the house manager, and the house manager hopped behind the police. So
Oh,
he,
wow.
yeah.
So that's how you were able to get the guest out of
If
the property.
he hadn't, because when he showed up, he had threatened violence, but that was just our word against his, unless we could get the video over to the police. Security cameras
Uh-huh.
too are very
Yeah.
important. But if he
Yeah.
hadn't charged them, then we may have ended up having to get the other two guys a hotel for them. Imagine if the house was
Yeah.
full and there were
Right.
10,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then had to go through a whole eviction process for
You would have had to give them an eviction notice, provided that they were, uh, I guess, renters, right? Isn't that true?
that is true. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But even with the licensee paperwork and our explanation of how that worked,
Hmm.
and this is a place where we'll look to have a conversation with the authorities and follow
Hmm.
up and say, hey, this is the paperwork that we have in place. When your officers showed up, they said it was a civil matter. Can we have a conversation about what this really means and what you need to see in our paperwork?
Hmm.
It's been emphasized at that beginning of that encounter, was that one, he had only been there for
A
less than,
short amount of time. Yeah.
yeah, he'd
Yeah.
been there for less than a week,
Uh-huh.
that he was a threat to himself and others.
Okay.
Since then, there's another community that I've joined, that it's group homes for newbies,
Hmm.
Facebook, and there's a lot of discussion in there. And I've heard a lot of people referring to the people in their homes as members.
Okay.
Kind of the thinking there is, I can't articulate it as well as the experts there do, but how do fraternities, get away with having
Right.
certain people
Right.
in the house? And they're members, they pay dues. They're like
Hmm.
a club. Now, the part that is apples to oranges there is that oftentimes a fraternity house is actually on the university campus, university property.
That's true. That's true.
But there's some wiggle room there. And it's about, not bragging to everyone about the business that you're running. And the language that they recommend is that you're providing a home for friends and family with disabilities. The key word being home and disabilities. Keywords.
Okay. All right. So you've been bouncing around a lot of ideas on these Facebook groups and learning a lot off of others um, that have multiple sober living facilities.
Yeah,
Or
well, there hasn't been a lot of time for a lot of interaction in that way. We do have mentors. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Patrick Lanzoff. He's a sub two member.
is that Arizona?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Scottsdale. Yeah, that does ring a bell.
Yeah, he's got some content in the Zoom vault too on sub two. But he and Don, um, they are they're really the guys that we reach out to get, our one-on-one questions answered. But there is another group called Group Homes for Newbies, I believe it is, and they're like 50,000 strong.
Oh,
And
awesome.
that's one where it's taking a lot to scroll through the content, but there are a lot of gems in there among the leaders and the more experienced people. So
Hmm. Okay. All right. And so how large is your town in Texas?
that is a good question.
Are you saying like 100,000 or like 5,000?
I really don't even know that statistic.
Okay.
What I can say though, it's just like the crossroads between Houston, San Antonio, and Corpus Christi.
Hmm. So in
Um,
that area,
yeah,
very rural.
yeah. One of the issues is that with Victoria being the kind of the hub in the middle of all that, what
Hmm.
happens is when funds are awarded based on like census data,
Uh-huh.
that community is accounted for. But all of the little rural towns around there that come to Victoria and use Victoria's resources are not accounted for.
I see. Where are you getting your funding to pay for your house manager?
So the house manager, he works, he's employed,
Okay.
but he stays for free.
Okay. Okay.
And,
So it's free housing.
and ideally, with our org chart is set up so that once we have, 3 houses plus, then we'll have an area manager. That will be a paid position. And
Hmm.
ideally, if our house manager, depending on where his career path goes, that would be somebody that we would look at moving up into that area manager and then filling his spot as a house manager.
So the house manager isn't necessarily in sobriety, him or herself.
Say that again.
So is the house manager necessarily in sobriety
Mhm.
and uh, him or herself?
Yes. Um,
Okay.
they're required to go, anybody in the house is required to attend at least 3 meetings a week. We don't specify what meeting that has to be. Like they're not required to go to NA or AA, but that is the most prominent type of meeting available in the area.
Hmm. AA, not necessarily NA.
Well, NA or AA, but for example, at Billy T. Catan, they could attend sobriety meetings or recovery
Hmm.
meetings at Billy T. Catan, and that would count as one of their 3.
Okay.
Not
Uh,
necessarily
s-
have to be in a program of some sort.
do you offer any type of meetings on site at the house?
We will, again, we just have the 2 guys in right now, but
Hmm.
we're working out the calendar to do that as well. So
Okay. And how do you hold the guests or residents, or what do you call them? I'm sorry. Yeah, guests, right?
we'll say members. Let's try that on.
Members. Okay. I had it in my notes. All right, members. So, or licensees, right? Oh,
Mhm.
let's just say members for
Licensees is really
ease of
what.
sake. Okay. So how do you keep these members accountable to show that they are in fact sober? Do you have weekly random drug tests, or how do you know whether or not they're using or not?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so our house manager is well versed at sniffing out bullshit and being able to tell the signs of use.
Hmm.
Also multiple random drug tests per week.
Okay.
And
So they
they,
know it's coming, they just don't know when.
right,
They know it's not a surprise. I mean, they know that if you're going to be a member here at this house, you're going to have random drug tests weekly or throughout the week. It could
yeah,
be one, two, three, depends on your the way you act,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Multiple tests to come into the house,
Hmm.
a check-in before you can even move in. And then there is oh, if you get an overnight pass, that has to be approved by the house manager. And if you take an overnight, you're going to be drug tested in the morning when you come back. If you miss
Hmm.
you're going to be automatically drug tested, um, or
Hmm.
in case of suspicion.
Yeah. Okay. How do you keep your house manager accountable? How do you know if they're using or not?
That is one that we are still working on. Um,
I'm full of questions.
Yeah, but thankfully in this situation, our house manager, because he's in a program, I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's the way that we have, everybody's in a program, everybody has a sponsor, so we can always talk to the sponsor,
Hmm.
patrol officer, but specifically with the house manager, he's now in a program where he's actually being interviewed to become a recovery counselor at the recovery center. So
Certified?
mhm. So we have
Okay.
set of eyes there.
So is he or she a certified counselor as of yet, or is that just in the making?
When you say certified, do you mean degreed?
Yeah. Or
Uh,
I mean, it's not really enough. It's not a 4-year degree. It's more so of like a certification course to become a, drug counselor.
yeah, I think they're putting him through that.
Okay. Okay. Is that on who's they?
Billy T. Catan.
Okay. Okay. So this house manager came from Billy T. Catan.
No,
Okay.
he came from
He's
South.
going at that. That's where he goes to
Yeah,
his own treatment is Billy T. Catan. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
And so is there a minimum that the house manager, when you reach out in the case you have additional sober living facilities you're bringing on, is there a requirement that you have to be 1 year sober, 5 year sober, 6 months sober? I mean, is there like a timeline?
You're gonna make me go back and check my paperwork, but I think it's 6 months.
6 months sober. Okay.
It
Okay.
might be longer than that, but
And are you currently getting any funding from the government or anyone
not as
around?
we are unlicensed. We are working on our 501(c)(3) though.
So you're unlicensed sobriety sober living facility.
Yeah.
And only way to get licensed
We're
is,
not a facility. That's a
I'm sorry?
we're not a facility. That's a distinction that would need to be made. We're a
Okay.
home.
Your group sober living group home.
Yes.
What is there really a difference between the two?
I think facility it does refer more to something that's licensed and
Okay.
open to issues, calls you out more as a business and opens you up more to um interference from government.
Okay. Okay. You probably must be a licensed facility to receive any type of grants or from the government, I would
Well,
think.
I know
No,
501(c)(3) to get grants, but to receive any insurance money, we
right.
can't accept insurance payments.
You can't accept it until you're licensed.
Right.
Got it. Okay. So no grants until licensed. Okay.
No,
And no grants.
no insurance
And
payment.
oh, no insurance payments. Okay.
Yeah. We can, once we're 501(c)(3), we can apply for grants. But you
Okay.
need about 2 years seasoning before, like maybe you'll get some small local grants, but to get any big grants, you need at least like 2 years as your 501(c)(3).
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So is this something that you and your partner are, I'm assuming you, I think you mentioned you have a partner with this, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you two are, your plan is down the line, once you fill all the beds in your current home, you're
Mhm.
going to be opening up additional homes in the area, or is this kind of just a test to see if this is what you like?
No, we're definitely going to be opening up more homes. Now, I don't, I think that the next home will I'm 90% sure the next home will still be in Victoria.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
there's the
Yeah.
need there. We're just still figuring out our communication lines so that we can have consistent occupancy.
Hmm.
And I think the time
And
needs us to prove ourselves a little bit too, that
yeah,
we're not fly by night.
right, 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 right.